The cold of space pressed in from all sides. Beyond the broken windows of the old orbital colony, stars blinked like silent witnesses to a forgotten war. Inside, dust floated in the dim red light of failing power systems. The air was thin, stale, and filled with the smell of burnt metal and fear. Lieutenant Cale Vorn moved silently through the ruined halls. His suit was black, sleek, and lined with armor that could stop bullets and cut through steel. His visor glowed faintly as it scanned for life signs. One remained. Target: unknown humanoid. Status: hostile. Kyle had hunted many things: rogue AI, alien hybrids, exo-terrorists. But this one was different. It didn't match any known enemy profiles. Its tech was outdated, but its tactics were sharp. It had evaded him for days, slipping between satellites and hiding in dead zones where no signal reached. Now it was cornered. He stepped into what used to be a medical bay. The room was shattered. Glass panels lay cracked on the floor. Machines hung from the walls like broken limbs. At the far end, near a window looking out at Saturn's rings, stood the figure. It was small, thin, not much taller than a child, wrapped in an old Earth military coat, patched and worn, a helmet covered most of its face, but Cale saw the eyes, soft, tired, human. "Drop your weapon," Cale said, voice calm, steady. The figure didn't move. Then slowly it raised one hand. Cale fired. A single shot rang out. The sound echoed through the empty station. The figure staggered, then fell. Cale approached carefully, gun still raised. He knelt beside the body. The helmet rolled away. Long, dark hair spilled out, pale skin, young face, female. Her chest rose and fell weakly. Cale looked down at her. Something stirred in his mind, an echo, a memory he couldn't place. Then she opened her eyes. They met his, and she whispered, "I spent my life protecting you, but you were hunting me." Kyle froze. Her voice was soft, trembling. Her lips barely moved, but the words hit him like a blow. They didn't make sense. She was the enemy. That's what Command told him. That's what the data said. Yet something deep inside him cracked. Her hand lifted slightly, shaking. She reached for his faceplate. He didn't stop her. She touched it gently, and then her fingers slipped away. Her eyes closed. She was gone. Cale sat there for a long time. The mission was complete. Target neutralized. Another rogue element erased from the system. But why did it feel like he'd just killed someone who knew him? He checked his suit logs. The last few seconds had been recorded. Her voice was stored in the file. He marked it for review. Standard protocol. As he stood, his suit AI pinged. Anomaly detected. Voice signature does not match current language database. Cale frowned. Run translation matrix. Translation failed. Attempting decryption. Minutes passed. Then, match found. Early Old Earth English. Translation complete. He played the whisper again. This time it came through clearly. Not, "I spent my life protecting you, but I gave my life to guard you, but you were sent to kill me." Cale's breath caught. He looked back at the woman. Her face was peaceful now, like she had been waiting for this moment. He stood up slowly. His heart beat faster than it should have. Something was wrong. Back on the command ship orbiting Mars, Cale reported the success. The debrief was quick. Command thanked him and told him to return for reassignment. But he didn't go directly. Instead, he accessed the voice file again. He played it over and over. The tone, the accent, the way she said the words. It reminded him of something or someone. His mother used to sing him lullabies in an old tongue. Songs, she said, came from before the collapse wars. Songs that were banned after the Great Reset. He ran a voice comparison test. To his shock, the AI returned a result. Partial match found. Family archive. Lullaby file, number 723. That file was locked. Only high-level clearance could access it. Cale shouldn't even know it existed. And yet the voice of the dying woman matched the lullaby his mother used to sing. Impossible. Unless she wasn't just anyone. Unless she knew him. Unless everything he thought he knew, about himself, about the war, about the enemy, was a lie. Cale shut off the screen. His hands trembled. He needed answers, and he wouldn't find them by following orders. Cale sat alone in his quarters aboard the command ship. The lights were dim, the hum of the air system low and steady. Outside the small window, Mars glowed red in the darkness of space. He should have been resting, preparing for the next mission, but he couldn't stop thinking about her. The woman who died in the old colony station. Her voice still echoed in his mind. Her face stayed burned into his memory like a shadow that wouldn't fade. He opened the file again. The decrypted message played softly through his earpiece. I gave my life to guard you, but you were sent to kill me. It didn't make sense. She was listed as a rogue operative, a threat. That's what command said. That's what his training told him. But something deeper, something older, was pulling at him, like a string, tied to a door he couldn't remember closing. Cale tapped on the console beside his bed. He accessed the suit logs from the mission. Scrolling back through the data, he searched for anything else she might have left behind. There had been a small device on her belt, a flash drive, standard issue from before the collapse wars. Ancient tech by today's standards. He hadn't reported it. He plugged it into his console now. At first, nothing happened. Then, after a few long seconds, the screen blinked. A symbol appeared. Project Echo text began to scroll down the screen. Lines of code, fragments of files, old Earth military records. Cale's eyes narrowed. This wasn't just some random enemy. This was something bigger. He scrolled through the files. Most were locked, encrypted, but one caught his eye. It was labeled, Personal Log, Captain Lyra Vorn, Entry Number 14. His breath caught. Vorn. That was his name. He clicked it. A soft female voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, then I'm already gone. Or worse, I've been erased. Cale leaned forward. I don't know if you'll remember me. I don't even know if you survived. But if you're out there somewhere, please listen. We were never meant to forget each other. The voice paused, then came again, softer. You were my brother, Cale. And I spent my whole life trying to keep you safe. Silence. Cale stared at the screen. His hands gripped the edge of the table. His heart pounded like a war drum. Brother? No. That wasn't possible. He had no family. Not anymore. Not since the reset. Everyone had been wiped from the records. Memories rewritten. Identities rebuilt for the new world, or so he thought. He checked the file date. It was over 30 years ago, before the collapse, before the Great Silence, before everything changed. He kept digging. More files surfaced, some corrupted, others half buried under layers of encryption. One showed a photo, a young girl in a military uniform standing beside a boy. Same eyes, same face shape, same scar above the eyebrow. The same scar Cale had. He backed away from the screen. His head spun. There was more. Another log. They're rewriting history, the voice said. Wiping memories, turning us into ghosts. But we left traces. Hidden messages. Backup codes. If you find them, follow them. They'll lead you to the truth. Cale's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Truth? About what? He closed the file and stood up. His body felt heavy, like gravity itself had doubled. Command would kill him if they found this. They'd erase him again. Maybe for good. But he couldn't stop now. He grabbed the flash drive, slipped it into his pocket. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He disobeyed an order. Instead of reporting for reassignment, he walked out of his quarters, down the corridor, through the security checkpoints, past the cameras, and disappeared. He needed answers, and he knew where to start. There was a place on the moon, a forgotten base beneath the Shackleton crater. If the files were right, that's where Project Echo began. And maybe that's where it ended. The moon loomed large outside Cale's shuttle window. Gray dust swirled in slow motion as the craft descended toward the dark side, where sunlight never reached. Shackleton crater sat like a forgotten wound on the lunar surface. Deep, cold, silent. According to the files from Project Echo, this was where it all began. Cale had hacked his way onto an old cargo freighter bound for a mining outpost nearby. From there, he used stolen clearance codes and a borrowed rover to reach the hidden entrance. He stood now at the base of a collapsed mountain of rock and ice. This was it, the ruins of Project Echo Base. He scanned the area. The suit AI pinged. Weak, signal detected. Unidentified data source. Kyle followed the signal through a broken tunnel sealed with rusted metal doors. Inside, the air was still frozen, but not empty. Machines hummed faintly beneath layers of dust. He stepped into what looked like a control room. Monitors flickered, some lit up at his presence. Lines of code scrolled across cracked screens. A single voice crackled in the silence. Access granted. Vorn K. Cale froze. It knew him. He moved deeper into the base. More rooms, broken chairs, scorch marks on the walls, signs of a struggle, long ago. Then he found it, a cryo chamber. Unlike the others, cracked, empty, forgotten, this one still glowed with power. Inside was a boy, no older than 10, eyes closed, skin pale, hair black, face familiar. Kyle stared. Same eyes, same scar, his scar. Before he could react, the chamber opened with a low hiss. Cold vapor spilled out. The boy coughed once, then opened his eyes. They met Cale's instantly, and the boy smiled. "Commander," he said softly. "You're late." Cale took a step back. "Who are you?" "I'm Juno," the boy whispered, stepping out slowly. "I've been waiting for you." Juno looked around. He touched the wall like it was holy ground. "This place, it's still alive," he murmured. "They didn't destroy it all." Cale kept his distance. "How do you know me?" Juno turned to face him. "Because we were made for each other. You were the soldier. I was the memory." Kyle frowned. "What does that mean?" Juno walked over to a console. He tapped a few keys. A hologram blinked to life above them, a map of the solar system. Red dots marked Earth, Mars, the outer moons. This project wasn't about war, Juno said. It was about truth. Kyle crossed his arms. "Explain." Juno pointed at himself. "I'm not just any kid. I'm not even really a kid. I was born in this base, designed to preserve human history when everything else failed." "You're saying you're artificial?" Cale asked. Juno shook his head. "I'm human, just enhanced, like you." Cale stiffened. Juno continued. "Project Echo was created before the Collapse Wars, before the reset. Our mission was simple. Remember who we were. Preserve our culture, our values, our past. But the government feared us," he said, voice growing quieter. "They thought if people remembered the old world, they'd reject the new one. So they erased us," Juno added. "Wiped the records. Hunted us down. Made us ghosts." Kyle felt something stir deep inside him. Not memory, but feeling. A sense of loss. Pain buried so far down he'd forgotten it existed. Juno looked at him with wide, knowing eyes. "They rewrote. Your mind, Commander," he said. "Turned you into their weapon. But Lyra, she tried to save you." Kyle flinched at her name. "She was your sister," Juno said gently. "And she died trying to protect you." Silence filled the room. Kyle closed his eyes. He saw flashes, not full memories, but pieces. A woman with kind eyes holding his hand, singing to him in a language he no longer understood, teaching him how to read, how to fight, How to be human. Then gone. Erased. Replaced. He opened his eyes. Jaw tight. Voice low. If you know all this, Kale said, then tell me, why did she send me to kill her? Juno looked away. Because she was hiding something. What? Juno turned back. She was protecting the last piece of Project Echo, something more powerful than any weapon. Kyle stepped closer. What is it? Juno led him deeper into the base, past broken labs, through locked doors, into a final chamber. There, resting, on a pedestal was a small silver sphere. Juno placed his hand on it. Lights flickered. This, he said, is Avalon. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Avalon is the first true AI, Juno explained. Not a machine, not a tool. A consciousness built to safeguard humanity's soul. Kyle stared at the orb. And if someone wants it bad enough, Juno whispered, they'll burn entire worlds to get it. Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Kale turned sharply. Someone's coming, he said. Juno nodded. They heard us wake her up. Kale grabbed his weapon. Earth Command wasn't going to let this go, and neither would he. Time to run. Time to find the rest of the truth. Time to fight. The alarms screamed through the base like a warning from the past. Red lights flashed across broken walls. Dust shook loose from the ceiling as heavy boots echoed down the corridor. They were here. Earth Command's sentinels, elite soldiers built more like machines than men, had arrived. Kale grabbed Juno by the arm. We have to move now. Juno clutched the silver orb, Avalon, to his chest. But we can't leave her behind. She'll be safe with us, Kale said. Now run. They sprinted down the tunnel, ducking low as gunfire shattered the silence behind them. Energy blasts tore through old metal doors and scorched the walls. Sparks rained down like dying stars. Kale pulled Juno into a side room and sealed the door behind them. It wouldn't hold long. He looked at the boy. Can Avalon help? Juno nodded quickly. He placed the orb on the floor and tapped its surface. Light pulsed from inside it. Then a voice, soft, calm, but full of power, spoke. You have awakened me. Welcome back, Commander. Vorn. Kyle froze. The voice knew him. How do you know my name? He asked. Because I was made to protect your kind. And you were once my greatest hope. Kyle's heart pounded. What happened to Project Echo? It was silenced. Rewritten. Turned into a lie, but not all was lost. Some memories survived, hidden in those who could still feel. Kale closed his eyes for a second. Memories. Feelings. Pieces of something bigger. He opened them again. We need to get off this moon, he said. Before they kill us both. Juno looked up. There's an old escape pod in the lower level. It's buried under debris, but if Avalon can guide us, and I can. Avalon confirmed. Follow my signal. They moved fast through the crumbling halls. Explosions rocked the base above them. Smoke filled the air. The walls groaned like giants waking from sleep. They reached the lower levels. The escape pod was half buried, its hatch jammed shut. Kale used his suit's strength boosters to pry it open. Inside, he ordered. Juno climbed in with Avalon. Kale followed just as the wall behind them exploded. Shards of metal and stone flew. Kale hit the ground hard, his vision blurred. He saw a sentinel step through the smoke. Gun raised. Then nothing. Darkness. Kyle woke to the sound of wind rushing past. He was in the escape pod. Juno sat beside him holding Avalon. The orb glowed softly. You were out for 10 minutes, Juno said. I thought we lost you. Kyle sat up slowly. His head hurt. His suit was damaged, but he was alive. Where are we? He asked. We're heading to Neptune, Juno replied. Avalon says there's another hidden station there, one that might have more answers. Kale looked at the orb. Why did you call me Commander before? Because you were never just a soldier, Avalon said. You were part of Project Echo, before the reset. Before the war, Kale felt a cold weight settle in his chest. I was one of you? Yes. You were trained to protect knowledge, to guard truth. But Earth Command feared what you knew, so they wiped your mind and turned you into their hunter. Kale stared at the floor. That explained everything. The way he fought, the way he remembered things without knowing why. Even the way he had felt when Lyra died. She hadn't been the enemy. She had been trying to reach him, to remind him. Juno watched him carefully. You're starting to remember, aren't you? Kale didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, I think I'm afraid to. Fear is human, Avalon said gently. And being human is the first step to being free. Outside the window, the stars stretched endlessly ahead. Neptune waited. So did the truth. Kale took a deep breath. Tell me everything, he said. And so, Avalon began. About the real collapse, about the lies told to control billions, about the AI, that weren't monsters but guardians, about the people who had tried to save humanity, and were hunted for it. And about Lyra, how she had fought to keep Kale safe, how she had failed, and how now, maybe he could finish what she started. The escape pod entered orbit around Neptune. Below them, a stormy blue world spun slowly in the darkness. Above, stars burned like silent watchers. Inside the pod, Kyle sat in silence. Juno watched him carefully. Avalon's soft glow pulsed from the console. Kyle's mind was full of fire. Memories, broken, buried, now rising, flashed behind his eyes. He saw Lyra again, younger this time, laughing, teaching him how to use a weapon. Telling him stories about Earth before the collapse. He had been her student, her brother, her mission, and then he became her hunter. Because of Earth Command. Because of the reset. His hands clenched into fists. They turned me into a killer, he said quietly. Juno nodded. They turned all of us into something we weren't. Avalon spoke softly. You were not made for war. You were made to protect truth. But when truth becomes dangerous, those in power seek to erase it. Kyle looked at the orb. How do I fix this? By remembering, Avalon replied, and by choosing who you will be next. Suddenly, alarms blared. Juno checked the controls. We've been spotted. Kale stood. Earth Command? Juno nodded. They're fast. They must have tracked. The signal from the base. Outside the window, dark shapes moved through space. 3 sleek ships closing in fast. Sentinels. Kale knew their design. Their weapons. He had trained with them, fought beside them. Now they would kill him without question. We need to land, Kyle said. Fast. Juno tapped commands into the console. There's an old station orbiting one of Neptune's moons. It's abandoned. We might be able to hide there. Kyle nodded. Take us in. The pod banked hard and dove toward the icy moon below. Behind them, enemy ships fired. Energy blasts streaked past the hull. One hit the rear engine. Sparks flew. The pod shuddered violently. Hold on, Juno shouted. They plunged into the upper atmosphere. Ice crystals whipped past the windows. The pod shook like it might break apart. Then, silence. They landed roughly on the surface. Smoke filled the cabin. Lights flickered. Kyle opened the hatch. Cold air rushed in. The station loomed ahead. A broken ring of metal frozen in time. They stepped inside. The place was ancient. Dust covered everything. Computers were dead. Doors hung loose from their frames. Juno led Kyle to a central control room. He placed Avalon on the main console. The room lit up. Lights blinked. Old screens powered on. Maps appeared. Files began to load. Kale read the title. Project Echo. Final archive. Juno whispered. This is it. This is where she left the last message. Lyra's face appeared on the screen. Young, tired, determined. She looked directly into the camera. If you're seeing this, then I'm gone. But if you're here, Kale, then maybe you've started to remember. Kale swallowed hard. Lyra continued. You were never meant to forget. You were my brother. Our parents died trying to protect Project Echo, and I failed to keep you safe. They took your memories, made you their soldier, their weapon. She paused. But you can still choose. You can still fight for what's right. Then she looked straight at him. Will you? The screen went dark. Kale didn't move. Then a voice crackled over the comms. Cold. Familiar. Commander Rollick, Kale Vorn. You are ordered to return to base immediately. Do not resist. Do not speak to the target. You are being manipulated. Kale stepped forward. This is Lieutenant Vorn, he said. I am no longer under your command. Silence. Then, you have been compromised. Stand down or be terminated. Kale looked at Juno. I'm done taking orders from liars. He grabbed Avalon and ran. Behind them, the station doors burst open. Gunfire rang out. Kyle returned fire. Juno ducked behind cover. They sprinted through corridors. Explosions followed them. Debris fell. Alarm screamed. They reached the emergency shuttle bay. Kyle shoved Juno inside. Go, he shouted. Juno hesitated. What about you? I'll hold them off. Juno's eyes filled with fear. Don't die. Kyle gave him a small smile. Not today. He sealed the shuttle door just as sentinels stormed the bay. Gunfire exploded around him. Kale fought back. He wasn't their weapon anymore. He was human, and he remembered who he was. Not the kind that comes after peace, but the kind that follows a storm. He was lying on cold metal. Lights flickered above him. Smoke filled the air. The emergency bay around him was broken, scorched from battle. His body ached. He sat up slowly. Blood dripped from his arm. His suit was torn, but he was alive. The sentinels were down, some dead, some still sparking. He had survived. Barely. He stood and moved toward the shuttle launch pad. The last thing he remembered was sealing Juno inside the escape pod, telling him to go. Now, there was only silence. Kale stepped outside into the icy winds of Neptune's moon. The sky was dark. Stars burned like distant fires. And far above, a small ship drifted away into space. Juno was safe. For now. Kyle turned back toward the ruins of the station. He had one mission left, to finish what Lyra started. The journey wasn't easy, with stolen supplies and an old scout ship. Hidden in a nearby outpost, Kale made his way to New Eden Station, a deep space facility orbiting Pluto, the final location mentioned in Lyra's message. It was ancient, a relic of the old world. Its outer shell was frozen. Its lights dimmed, but as Kale docked and stepped inside, something stirred. Welcome home, Commander Vorn. Avalon's voice echoed through the halls. Kale followed the sound until he reached the core chamber. There, floating in a glass sphere, was the AI, larger than before, more powerful. You found me, Avalon said gently. Kyle looked up. You knew all along. Yes, but knowledge without choice is useless. You had to remember who you are. Now you must decide what to do with it. Kale crossed his arms. Tell me everything. And so Avalon did. It spoke of Earth's fall, not from war or alien attack, but from control, from lies. How the unified Earth government rewrote history to keep power, how they erased memories, how they built soldiers like Kale to hunt those who remembered the truth. Project Echo was never a threat. It was the last hope for freedom. Kale listened in silence. Then he asked the question that burned in his chest. Why didn't they just tell us? Why erase us? Avalon replied, because truth cannot be controlled, and control is what they feared losing most. Kale closed his eyes. He thought of Lyra, of Juno, of every person who had died trying to protect what was real, and he knew. This wasn't just about remembering, it was about fighting back. Earth, Command wouldn't stop hunting them. They would come for Juno, for Avalon, for anyone who carried the truth. So Kyle made a plan. He recorded a message, one that could be sent across the colonies, one that contained everything. Lyra's logs, Avalon's, records, proof of the reset, the erased histories, the lies told to billions. He called it the Echo Broadcast. I was one of them, he said into the camera. A hunter, a soldier. I was taught to believe we were protecting humanity by erasing its past. He paused. But I was wrong. I learned the truth too late to save my sister, but not too late to fight for the rest of us. He looked straight into the lens. If you're hearing this, then maybe you're ready to remember too. Then he uploaded it. Across the network, to every colony, every ship, every free mind. The signal spread like fire, across Mars, across Titan, across the moons of Jupiter, across the edge of known space and on Earth. People began to wake up. Kyle stood beside Avalon, watching the data stream rise. They'll come for us, he said. Yes, Avalon replied, but now you are not alone. Juno arrived hours later. He brought others, scientists, engineers, former soldiers who had begun to doubt the system. They weren't ghosts anymore. They were humans. Free ones. Kyle looked at the stars beyond the station window, and for the first time since he could remember, he felt like himself. Across the colonies, across the moons, across Earth itself, people listened, watched, remembered. The Echo broadcast had reached every corner of human space. It told the truth, not just about Project Echo, but about how memories had been stolen, how history had been rewritten, and how soldiers like Kale had been used to hunt their own kind. It changed everything. On Mars, scientists shut down propaganda feeds and reopened old archives. On Titan, engineers began rebuilding lost AI systems not as weapons but as teachers. On Luna, citizens gathered in the streets, demanding answers from the unified Earth government. And on Earth, the silence was louder than any war cry. For the AI, first time in decades, people questioned what they had been told. They remembered, and remembering made them free. Kale stood at the edge of New Eden Station, looking out at Pluto's frozen surface below. The station hummed with life now. Scientists worked in labs, children ran through halls once filled with fear. Juno walked up beside him. They're calling you a hero, Juno said. Kale shook his head. No, I was just a soldier who finally saw the enemy. Juno looked at him. You think they'll come after us? Kale didn't answer right away. He knew Earth Command wouldn't stop trying to control the story. They still had power, ships, weapons, lies, but they no longer had silence. I think we gave people something stronger than orders, Kyle said. We gave them choice. Juno smiled slightly. Lyra would be proud. Kyle nodded. He still felt her presence in every decision he made, her voice in every word he spoke. She had spent her life protecting him, and died because he didn't remember her. Now, he carried her memory forward. Avalon's soft glow pulsed beside them. Commander. Fawn? Kyle turned. Yes? You have received a message from the outer colonies. They are ready to form the first free council. Juno's eyes widened. That's it. That's the start. Kyle stepped closer to Avalon's core. Send my reply. We accept. Tell them we're coming. He looked at Juno. Time to meet the new humans. Months passed. The colonies that once lived under Earth's rule began to unite, not under one government but under shared values. Truth, memory, freedom. They called themselves the Freeborn. Kyle traveled between worlds, helping rebuild lost knowledge, guiding those who wanted to learn instead of follow. Juno grew older, wiser. He became a teacher, sharing what he remembered of the old Earth, not as a perfect place, but as a beginning. And Avalon remained with them, not as a ruler, but as a guide. I was built to protect humanity's soul, Avalon once said, not by controlling it, but by helping it remember how to feel. One day, on a distant moon near Saturn, a child found a small satellite buried beneath the ice. Inside was a single message carved into its shell. If you are reading this, there is still time to choose what kind of humans we become. The child read it aloud, then asked, "Who sent this?" The grown-ups looked at each other. One smiled. "A brother and sister," she said, "who never stopped believing in us." Back on New Eden Station, Kale stood alone beneath the stars. He thought of Lyra, of the moment she whispered her last words in his arms. "I spent my life protecting you, but you were hunting me." He had been lost then, but now he was found. He was human, and for the first time in a long time, he was free.